Hi everybody, welcome to Vysh IAS. This is Pranay and we are going to start the part 2 of class 11 Tamil Nadu history textbook. This is the first video of the textbook. If you have not seen the previous volume of the textbook of the class 11th, please go and check the playlist. You will be finding the part 1 of the textbook. So from today onwards, we are going to continue with the part 2 of the textbook. So before I start the class, I request everybody to like and share this video and leave a comment such that we can know like you are attending in real. Okay. And you can also reach us on the number provided here on WhatsApp or else you can even mail us. Okay. We shall start. Chapter number 12, Bahamani and Vijayanagar Kingdoms. So what we are going to learn is sources of study for Bahamani and Vijayanagar Kingdoms, foundation and consolidation of Bahamani Sultanate, prolonged conflict between Bahmani kingdom and Vijayanagar. These both kingdoms always used to have some sort of disturbances between them. Okay, military career and achievements of Mohammed Gawan, the strategic importance of Golconda Fort. Okay, and on the Vijayanagara side, origin and development of Vijayanagara kingdom by Sangama brothers, Vijayanagara and Bahmani tussle, causes and consequences. Okay, what were the reasons behind it? Brief rule of Salva dynasty followed by Krishnadevaraya's illustrious career, Battle of Talikota and decline of Vijayanagara kingdom, administration of and society and economic of Vijayanagara kingdom, and rise of Nayaka kingdoms. Okay, we shall start. Introduction. At the beginning of 14th century, when the Delhi Sultanate was preparing to extend southwards, the Deccan and South India were divided into four kingdoms. Okay, the Yadavas of Devagiri, which is basically the present day Maharashtra, the Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra, which is the Karnataka now, the Kakatiyas of Warangal, which is eastern part of the Telangana, and the Pandyas of Madurai, which is in the southern Tamil Nadu. Okay, so these are very important. Yadavas of Devagiri, the present day Maharashtra, the Hoysalas of Dwarasamudra of Karnataka, the Kakatiyas of Warangal, which is the Telangana, the eastern part of Telangana, and the Pandyas of Madurai, the southern Tamil Nadu. Okay. During the two expeditions of General Malik Kafur, first in 1304 and then in 1310, these old states faced a defeat one after another and lost most of their accumulated wealth to plundering raids of the Sultanate army. The Tughlaq dynasty continued its southern expeditions into southern India under the rule of his military officers. Okay. Muhammad Tughlaq even tried to make Devagiri, renamed as Daulatabad, as the capital to command the vast conquered territory more effectively. We have read in this the previous classes about these all things in detail. Okay? But his experiments failed and brought misery to the people. When he shifted the capital back to Delhi, his subordinates in the south declared independence. Okay, the part, for example, if we consider this, okay, the southern part called themselves as independent. Okay, thus Madurai became an independent sultanate in 1333. Zafar Khan, who declared independence in 1345 at Devagiri, shifted his capital to Gulbarga in the northern Karnataka. Okay, he took the title Bahman Shah, and the dynasty he inaugurated became known as the Bahmani dynasty. Okay, he was Zafar Khan. Okay, a few years earlier, in 1336, the Vijayanagar kingdom was inaugurated by the Sangama brothers Harihara and Bukka at Vijayanagara, the present day Hampi, on the south bank of Tungabhadra. During the next 2 centuries, these two fought continually and bitterly to control the rich Raichur Doab and also the seaports of Goa, Honavar, etc. on the west coast, which were the supply points of the horses needed for their army. Okay, so for the next 2 centuries, the 200 years, they always had some sort of fight. Okay? There are several kind of sources, literary, epigraphical, archaeological, available for study of this period. Several Persian accounts written by court historians of Bahmani Sultanate relating to Bahmani Vijayanagar conflict were have survived. Okay, though they contain some biased and exaggerated information, they provide an eyewitness accounts related to the battles, the palace intrigues, and the life and suffering of the people on either side, which are lacking in inscriptions. Okay, the Kannada and the Telugu literature like Manu Charitam, Saluvya Dayam, Salva Bhudayam, etc., patronized in Vijayanagara court, give genealogical, political, and social information. Okay? The Telugu work Raya Vachakamu, okay, Raya Vachakamu, okay. The Raya is the word which we use for the Krishna Deva Raya, and these are like part of their names. And Vachakamu is like more or less the words about the Raya, okay, gives interesting details about the Nayak system under Krishna Deva Raya, okay. Several foreign visitors who came to South India during the 14th to 16th centuries wrote about their travels, which threw useful light on the political, social, and cultural aspects. Of them, Ibn Battuta, a Moroccan travel, okay, he wrote. Abdul Razak from Persia, Nikitin, a Russian, okay. The Portuguese visitor Domingo Paes and Nunes provided remarkably rich information. Okay. Thousands of inscriptions in Kannada, Tamil, and Telugu, besides a number of copperplate charters in Sanskrit, are available, and above sources add to the epigraphical information. Okay, there are a rich variety of archaeological sources in form of temples, palaces, forts, mosques, etc. Numismatic evidence is also available in abundance. Okay, the coin evidence. Okay. The Vijayanagara kings issued a large number of gold coins called Varaha, okay, also called Pon in Tamil and Honnu in Kannada. Remember, Varaha is also used for the wild boar, okay, the one of the forms of Vishnu. So this Varaha and that Varaha is different, okay, remember that thing. These gold coins have images of various Hindu deities and animals like the bull, the elephant, the fabulous Gandhabirunda, a double eagle sometimes holding an elephant in its beak and claw. Okay, the legend contains the king's name either in Nagari or in Kannada script. Okay, remember Nagari or in Kannada script. Bahmani Kingdom. Alauddin Hassan Bahman Shah. Okay, he was from 1347 to 1358. He ruled. Okay, rivalry with the Vijayanagara kingdom over the fertile Raichur Doab lying between the Krishna and Tungabhadra rivers not only marked the early history of Bahmani kingdom but continued to be an enduring feature for 2 centuries. Okay, Bahman Shah had also to contend in the east with the rulers of Warangal and Orissa. In order to facilitate smooth administration, as followed in the Delhi Sultanate, he divided the kingdom into four territorial divisions. Remember this, okay? Called Tarafs, each under a governor. Okay, so there were four territorial divisions known as Tarafs, and there was a governor for each of the territorial region or Taraf. Each governor commanded the army of his province, Gulbarga, Daulatabad, Bidar, and Berar, okay, and was solely responsible for both its administration and collection of revenue. Okay, the system worked well under a powerful king, but its dangers becomes apparent under a weak ruler. Okay, till the king is powerful, or till it is under the nice powerful king, it is fine, but once a weak ruler enters after the powerful king, then the problem starts. For the greater part of his reign of 11 years, the Bahman was engaged in subduing the unruly in his kingdom and establishing the order. So he was taking care of the insides of his kingdom. Okay, his attempt to exact an annual tribute from the state of Varangal, the Reddy kingdoms of Rajamandri and Kondavidu led to frequent wars. Okay, he always wanted an annual tribute from Varangal, Rajamandri, and Kondavidu. Okay, Diamond Shah emerged victorious in all these expeditions. Okay, and assumed the title Second Alexander on his coins. Okay, he called himself as Second Alexander. Okay, remember that. Next comes the Muhammad I. Muhammad I succeeded Bahman Shah. There was a decade-long war with Vijayanagar, most of which related to control of the Raichur Doab. So, more or less, the Vijayanagar and Bahman fought only for the Raichur Doab. Okay, because it was very fertile and it was between two, what do we call, the rivers. Okay, neither side gained lasting control over the region in spite of huge fatalities in battles. Two bitter wars with Vijayanagara gained him nothing. Okay, so there is a small information about it. The turquoise stone. So it does look like this, and after polishing, it looks like this. Okay, turquoise is a semi-precious stone, sky blue in color. Okay, turquoise throne is one of the bejeweled royal seats of Persian kings described in Firdausi's Shah Nama. Okay, so this was considered very important. But his attack on Warangal in 1363 brought him a large indemnity, including the imported fortress of Golconda and the treasured turquoise throne, okay, which thereafter became the throne of the Bahmani king. Okay, Muhammad I established a good system of government that was followed by all the successor sultanates as well as the Marathas later. Okay, so Marathas also followed, okay, more or less the system of government of the Muhammad I. He appointed a council of 8 ministers. Okay, what were they? Wakil us Sultana, the lieutenant of the kingdom, the immediate subordinate of the sovereign. Matlab, he is more or less under the king directly. He is directly reporting to the king and he is more or less after the king. Okay. Waziri Kul, who supervised the work of all ministers. So he was like more or less the supervisor of the ministers. Okay. Amir-e-Jumla, the Minister of Finance. Wasir-e-Ashraf, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Master of Ceremonies. Okay. Nazir, Assistant Minister for Finance. Peshwa, who was associated with the Lieutenant of the Kingdom. Kotwal, or Chief of Police and City Magistrate in the capital. Okay. Sadr-e-Jahan, or Chief Justice and Minister of Religious Affairs and Endowments. Okay. He took strong measures for oppression of highway robbery, institutional and geographical consolidation under Muhammad Shah laid a solid foundation for the kingdom. Okay. He built two mosques at Gulbarga. One, the Great Mosque, completed in 1367, remains an impressive building. It is still present there and it looks like this. Okay. It is even known as Jama Masjid of Gulbarga, I believe. Okay. The next 100 years saw a number of sultans, one after another, by succession or usurpation. All of them fought with their southern neighbor but without gaining much territory. In 1425, Warangal was subdued and their progress further eastwards was challenged by Orisan rulers. Okay? The capital was shifted from Gulbarga to Bidar in 1429. Bidar is also in Karnataka itself. The rule of Muhammad III, 1463 to 1482, is worthy of mention because of his lieutenant Mohammed Gawan, a great statesman. Okay, this has been mentioned specifically in the intro part, so he must be very important. You will see why. Mohammed Gawan, a Persian by birth, Muhammad Gawan was well versed in Islamic theology, Persian, and mathematics. He was also a poet and a prose writer. Okay, the Mohammed Gawan Madrasa in Bidar, with a large library containing 3,000 manuscripts, is illustrative of his scholarship. Okay, Gawan served with great distinction as Prime Minister under Muhammad III and contributed extensively to the dynamic development of Bahmani Kingdom. Okay, he worked as Prime Minister under Muhammad III. Okay, it's a simple question like under whom was Muhammad Gawan working as a Prime Minister? Okay, those kind of questions may arise. Gawan fought successful wars against the rulers of Konkan, Orissa, and Vijayanagar. Okay, he was known for his administrative reforms. He used Persian chemists to teach the preparation and use of gunpowder. Okay, remember this. In his war against the Vijayanagar kings in Belgaum, he used gunpowder. Okay, he used against the Vijayanagar kingdoms in Belgaum. Golconda Fort. The Raja Krishnadev of Kakatiya dynasty with Warangal as capital constructed the Golconda Fort on a granite hill. Okay, so it was built by a Hindu king of Kakatiya dynasty. During 1495 to 96, the fort was handed over to Sultan Kali Qutub Khan as a Jagir, the land grant. Okay, he reconstructed and rechristened the mud fort into a granite fort and called the place Muhammad Nagar. Okay, later the Golconda Fort came into possession of Bahmani dynasty. Still later, the Qutub Shahi dynasty took over and made Golconda its capital. Okay. Golconda Fort owes much of its present grandeur to Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah, the fifth Sultan of Qutub Shahi dynasty. The subsequent generations saw Golconda being fortified further with several additions and formations of a beautiful city within. Okay, by the 17th century, Golconda was famous as a diamond market. See, if you get a chance to visit Golconda, get a guide. Okay, he will explain like in front of the Golconda Fort there is a small garden kind of a thing. Okay, that garden was once a diamond market. People used to come from far away to that market to buy diamonds and pearls and all that. Okay? It gave the world some most best diamonds, including the Kohinoor. Okay, Kohinoor was found from the Golconda Fort. Okay. The Golconda Fort is located about 11 kilometers from Hyderabad on a hill of 120 meters high. Okay. Now it's like more or less, in the middle of Hyderabad now. Okay. The Golconda Fort is popular for its acoustics architecture. The highest point of the fort is Bala Hisar. Okay. There is said to be secret underground tunnel which leads from Darbal Hall to one of the palaces at the foots of the hills. Okay, and this how it looked. The Kohinoor Dam, and it was huge and nice. Okay, Golconda Fort also houses the tombs of Qutub Shahis. There are two individual pavilions on outer side of Golconda, which serve as major architectural attractions. Okay, the fort comprises four other small forts within itself. It has cannons, drawbridges, royal chambers, halls, temples, mosques, stables, etc. The Fateh Darwaza or the Victory Gate is the entrance to the fort. Okay. Aurangzeb laid siege to this Golconda fort in 1687 for about 8 months. Okay, Aurangzeb fought almost for 8 months, but in vain. He was not able to do anything wrong. It was due to the treachery of an Afghan gatekeeper. Okay, there was an Afghan gatekeeper who betrayed. Okay, for some money or something. Okay, the fort finally fell. Okay, because of some internal person. Okay, Afghan gatekeeper, the fort finally fell. Okay. Okay. In order to tighten the administration and to curb the power of provincial governors who functioned virtually as kings, Gawan decided the existing four provinces of Bahamani Sultanate into 8. Okay, now the 4 provinces became 8. Okay, this not only limited the area under the rule of each governor, but also made the provincial administration more manageable. Okay, he placed some districts in provinces directly under the central administration. Gawan sought to curtail the military powers of governors by allowing them to occupy only one fort in their territory. The other forts remained under Sultan's direct control. Okay, so governors were allowed more or less to occupy only one fort in the territory. The royal officers who were given land assignments as pay were made accountable to the Sultan for their income and expenditure. Okay, the administrative reforms introduced by Gawan improved the efficiency of the government, but curtailed the powers of the provincial chiefs who were mostly Dakkanis. Okay, so the already existing rivalry among the two groups of nobles, the Dakkani Muslims and the Pardesi, the foreigner Muslims, okay, further intensified and conflict broke down. Okay, Gawan became a victim of this tussle for power, although he remained fair and neutral in this conflict. Jealous of his success, they forged a letter to implicate Gawan in a conspiracy against the Sultan. Okay, so Sultan, who himself was not happy with Gawan's dominance, ordered his execution. Okay, Gawan's execution augured ill for the Sultanate. Okay, it was not really good for the Sultanate. Several of the foreign nobles who were considered the strongest pillars of state began to leave for their provinces, leading to disintegration of the Sultanate. Okay, after the Sultan's death, 5 of his descendants succeeded him on the throne, but they were kings only in name. They were not able to do anything. Okay, they were just mere puppets. During this period, the Sultanate broke into 4 independent kingdoms: the Bijapur, Ahmednagar, Berar, and Golkot. Okay, Bidar, where the Bahmani Sultan ruled as puppet, became the fifth one. Okay, among these, Bijapur became powerful by annexing Bidar and Berar in course of time. Though Ahmednagar and Golconda acted independently, they finally joined with Bijapur to fight with their common enemy, the Vijayanagara. Okay, Vijayanagar was utterly routed in Battle of Talikota or Rakshasi Tangadi in 1565. Therefore, within a century, the sultanates were vanquished over one after another and taken over by the Mughal state. Okay, so you can see this is the Vijayanagara kingdom. Okay, this is Vijayanagara, this is Bellari, Halebeedu, Mysuru, Kozhikode, the present day Kerala, Kanchi, Tanjavur, Madurai, Kollam. And the upper part, this was the Bahmani kingdom. So more or less the what we call the Deccan part. Okay, this was Varangal, this was the Daulatabad. Okay, and the Golconda. Okay, we shall start about the Vijayanagara kingdom now. So origin and expansion. There are different traditions regarding the foundation for the Vijayanagar kingdom. Okay, there are different kind of stories. Okay, it is now generally accepted on the basis of contemporary inscriptions that two brothers, Harihara and Bukka, the eldest sons of one Sangama, earlier serving the Hoysala rulers of Karnataka, asserted their independence and laid foundation for a new kingdom in about 1336. Okay, so Harihara and Bukka, okay, the eldest sons of the Sangama. He was the Hoysala ruler. Sorry, the person involved with the Hoysala rulers. Okay, this happened soon after death of the Hoysala king Ballala III at the hands of Madurai Sultan. Okay, so after Ballala III, who was the Hoysala king, this guy who was father of Harihara and Bukka was working for Ballala III. Okay, and after his death, he uh, described this. Okay, initially the capital was in or near about Anegondi on the north bank of Tungabhadra river. But soon it was shifted to Hoysala town, Hosapattana, okay, which is Hampi near Hampi, okay, on the southern bank. The capital was expanded and renamed Vijayanagara, the city of victory. Thereafter, they proclaimed themselves the ruler of Vijayanagara or Karnata Vijayanagara. Okay. Harihara celebrated his coronation in 1346 at this city. Okay. Historians call this dynasty started by Harihara as Sangama after the name of his father or forefather. Vijayanagara rulers adopted the emblem of the Chalukyas. Okay, they followed the emblem of Chalukyas, the boar or Varaha, as their royal insignia. Okay, so you need to remember this Varaha and this Varaha, which we discussed previously, are two different things. Here, the Varaha is the wild boar. Okay, and that Varaha, which we were talking about, were the coins, the gold coins. Okay. The Vijayanagara kingdom was successfully ruled by four dynasties. Okay, four dynasties were involved over a period of more than 300 years. The first was Sangama dynasty, as it was derived from the name of the father of the Harihara and Bukka. Okay, the Sangama dynasty, 1336 to 1485. The Salua dynasty from 1485 to 1505. The Tulua dynasty from 1505 1570, and Aravidu dynasty from 1570 to 1650. The history of this kingdom can be narrated in these four stages. Remember this chronology. The first was Sangama, second was Salua, Tuluva, and Aravidu. Okay. In the beginning, the Vijayanagara kingdom was one among small principalities of the time under the rule of some local chiefs in different parts of southern India. The three big states of 13th century, the Pandyas in Tamil Nadu, the Hoysalas in Karnataka, and Kakatiyas in Andhra, had almost been destroyed by military expeditions of Delhi Sultanate in the first 3 decades of 14th century, leaving a big political vacuum. Okay, because the Hoysalas, Kakatiyas, and Pandyas were almost destroyed because of Delhi Sultanate. Okay, there was a political vacuum. There was nobody to rule, basically. Okay, the turbulent political situation provided an opportunity to five Sangama brothers, headed by Harihara, to consolidate and expand the territory. Besides, the Tamil Sultanate, excuse me, the Muslim Sultanate had been established in Madurai a little earlier, and the Bahamani Sultanate has came up in 1347, started to rule independently of Delhi. Okay, so it started to rule independently. The Delhi Sultanate itself became weak and did not take much interest in the south. Within the first 4 decades, the small principality became a big kingdom. Okay, previously small villages kind of a thing was there, small different kingdoms, small kingdoms. Now it became a big kingdom through the military activities of five brothers in different directions. First, the entire core area of Hoysala kingdom in Karnataka was incorporated in Vijayanagara. Okay, the first was the Hoysala kingdom to be incorporated into Vijayanagara. The coastal part of Karnataka was soon taken over and remained an important part of kingdom until the end. As this gave access to several port towns, good care was taken to administer this part under a successive line of Pradhani or governors. Under Bukkavan, attention was turned to Tondai Mandalam, okay, Tondai Mandalam, covering the northern districts of Tamil area, which was under the rule of Sambuvaria chiefs. This we have read in the previous classes also. The Prince Kampana, usually called the Kumara Kampana, son of Bukkavan, carried out his work successfully with the help of his faithful general Maraya Nayak. Okay. He also gives credit for slaying the Madurai Sultan and bringing an end that sultanate in about 1370. Okay. Remember, Kampana, the Kumara Kampana, was the son of Bukka. Okay. And the general Maraya Nayak helped. Okay. This is mentioned in Madura Vijayam, okay, a Sanskrit work written by Kampana's wife Ganga Devi. Okay, but strangely, the Pandya country, including Madurai, was not annexed to Vijayanagara kingdom. Okay, at the time. It became a part of the kingdom only after 1500, more than 100 years later. Okay, so the Madurai was not incorporated in the starting itself. Okay, after 100 years, around in 1500, it was incorporated. Until then, only the northern and central part of the Tamil country up to Kaveri Delta were under the direct administration of the Sangama and Sadhava dynasties. According to some later day traditions, Vidyaranya, also called as Madhava, a renowned Shaiva saint and Sanskrit scholar, is said to have persuaded the brothers to abandon their service to the Tughlaqs and also to renounce Islam that they had adopted when they were imprisoned by the Sultan in Delhi. Okay, Vidyaranya is believed to have played an important role in the foundation of Vijayanagara kingdom. Okay, this guy persuaded them. Okay, to start this thing. This is doubtful as according to some inscriptions, Vidyaranya lived at the end of 14th century, nearly 1660 years after the foundation of Vijayanagar. Okay, so this is also not correct. They are trying to say. Okay, so now comes the Vijayanagara Bahamani conflicts. From the beginning, both the Bahamani and Vijayanagara kingdoms were in constant conflict. Okay, the contest for territory, tribute, and control of horse trade were the major subjects of conflict. Each of them wanted to annex and dominate the fertile area between the Krishna and the Tungabhadra, the Raichur Doab. Okay, always it was in the limelight, the Raichur Doab. Though neither of them succeeded fully, much bloodshed took place for some transitory success. Some historians argue that religious rivalry between Hindu Vijayanagar and Muslim Sultanate was basic cause of this continuous fight. Okay, so some historians, what they say is Vijayanagara was Hindu part and the Bahmani was the Muslim Sultanate. Because of that, there was the rivalry. But actually, the Vijayanagara kings fought also with many Hindu non-Muslim rulers like that of Varangal, Kondavidu, Odisha, etc., in which Muslim rulers took part as allies sometimes and as enemies on the other time. Okay, the control of horse trade that passed through Goa and other ports was another reason for the fighting. Horses were necessary for the armies of both sides. In spite of continuous fighting, the Krishna River was more or less the dividing line between the two powers. Okay, Krishna River divided both the powers. In coastal Andhra, the power struggle was between Gajapati kingdom of Orissa and Vijayanagara. Okay, at the coastal part of the Andhra, this part. Okay, this part. Vijayanagar, not till here. This is Tamil Nadu. Okay, coastal part of Andhra itself. Okay, Vijayanagara could not make such headway until time of Devaraya II, who defeated the Orissan army in some battle. But these conquests were only to extract tribute and no territory was added. They just wanted money, okay, tribute. Devaraya II was the greatest ruler of Sangama dynasty. He strengthened his cavalry by recruiting trained Muslim cavalry for his army and giving archery training to his soldiers. Abdul Razak, the Persian ambassador who visited the Zamorin of Kochi and Vijayanagara court during this time, states that Devaraya II controlled a vast area. He received tribute from King of Sri Lanka too. Okay. Vijayanagar Empire went through a crisis after Devaraya II. Okay, till Devaraya II, it was prosperous, but after Devaraya II, there was some sort of crisis. Quarrels on account of succession and inefficient successors encouraged the Gajapati king to dominate the coastal Andhra. Between 1460 to 65, the Gajapati army attacked many times and it conducted a victorious expedition even up to Tiruchirappalli, which is in the more or less the middle of the Tamil Nadu, okay, on the Kaveri river, causing much destruction on the way and plundering the wealth of many temples. Okay. Taking advantage of the situation, the feudatories assumed independence. Okay, the smaller kingdoms who accepted the suzerainty of the king now assumed independence, called themselves as kings. Thus, Tirumala Deva and Konira Deva, Koneri Deva, Koneru is basically some sort of river. Okay, you just check it in the Google. Koneri Deva, Tirumalai Deva began to rule independently in the Tanjavur Tiruchirappalli area for some decades during the interregnum before the rise of Saluva rule. Okay, power passed on to trusted commander Saluva Narasimha, who defended the kingdom from Gajapatis and recovered part of Kosalandra. Okay, the commander Saluva Narasimha defended the kingdom from Gajapatis. Okay, around 1485, Saluva Narasimha usurped the throne and declared himself as king, starting the short-lived Saluva dynasty. He was assisted by his general and general warrior Narasa Nayak, okay, who tried to quell the rebellious local chiefs in the south. Saluva Narasimha died in 1491, leaving his young sons under the care of Narsa Nayak. Narsa Nayak is the general. Okay, Narsa Nayak became the de facto ruler and took several steps to safeguard the country until his death. In about 1505, his eldest son Veera Narasimha started the third dynasty known as Tuluva dynasty. Okay, he had a short but eventful reign and was succeeded by his younger brother Krishna Deva Raya, who was the most important king of the whole Vijayanagar kingdom. Okay, this guy was the Krishna Deva Raya. Krishna Deva Raya is considered the greatest of the Vijayanagara kings. He built upon the strong military base laid by his father and his elder brother. He tried to keep the greatness of the kingdom intact by understanding many military expeditions during much of his reign. Early in his reign, he fought with the rebellious Ummattur chief, okay, near about Mysore. Ummattur, okay, near about Mysore, and brought him to submission. He then had to fight almost continuously on two fronts, one against the traditional enemy, the Bahamani Sultans, and other against the Orissa king Gajapati. Okay, this Orissa king was always, having trouble, and Bahmani Sultans has been a trouble since the starting itself. Okay, there are several inscriptions graphically describing his seizure of many forts like Udayagiri under the control of Gajapati during the course of his eastern expedition. Finally, he put a pillar of victory at Simhachalam. Okay, Krishnadevaraya had to undertake more than one expedition to repulse the Bahmani forces, which were intruding into his territory on a regular annual basis. In some of these ventures, the Portuguese, trying to establish their power in the Malabar and Konkan coast, helped Krishnadevaraya with military aid and got permission to build a fort at Bhatkal. Okay? Though he was successful for a time, his victories made the warring Bahmani sultans to become united for their survival. There are some other reasons for celebration of Krishna Devaraya as the greatest ruler. What are they? He made very large donations to many of the great Shiva and Vishnu temples of today. Sri Sailam, Tirupati, Kalahasti, Kanchipuram, Tiruvannamalai and Chidambaram, etc. You can see the Krishna Devaraya's what do we call Murti, kind of statue kind of a thing has been placed in Tirupati temple also, okay, with his two wives. Okay, he added towering gopuras to many of these temples, which survive to this day, today also. Okay, after even 500 years. Contemporary foreign visitors like Pais and Nunes, who visited Vijayanagara, left glowing tributes to his personality and grandeur of the city. His court was also adorned by some great poets like Allasani Peddana. Okay, Allasani Peddana is a poet, okay, from the Krishnadevaraya's court. He himself is considered a great scholar and is author of the famous poem Amuktamaldeyada, okay, the story of Andal. Okay, remember this. But this crowning achievement, a clever administrator, was reorganization of the Nayak or Nayankara system and giving legal recognition to the system. Okay, the Nayankara system. So next comes the Battle of Talikota. At Krishnadevaraya, after the Krishnadevaraya's death, his son was a small child, and his younger brother Achyuta Devaraya became king. Okay, so his son was very small, so his younger brother became the king. Soon some succession disputes started as Ramaraya, the son-in-law of Krishnadevaraya, wanted to dominate the affairs by crowning the infant as king. Okay, Achyuta Devaraya was however supported by Chellappa, also known as Saluva Nayak, the greatest Nayak of the day, who controlled a major part of the Tamil area. Okay, so this is a pictorial representation of Battle of Talikota. Soon after, however, Chellappa became a rebellious himself, and Achyuta Devaraya had to take a big expedition to the south to subdue him because he was, a very important guy who used to take care of the Tamil part. So Achyuta Devaraya had to take an expedition against this Chellappa also. Okay, he had some encounters with the Deccan Sultans too. After his death in 1542, his nephew Sadasivaraya succeeded him and ruled for about 30 years. Okay, almost 30 years. But real power lay in the hands of Ramaraya, who got support from many of his close kinsmen of Aravidu clan by appointing them as Nayak of many strategic localities. Ramaraya, a great warrior and strategist, was able to play off the Bahamani Muslim powers against one another. Okay, he entered into commercial treaty with the Portuguese, whereby the supply of horses to the Bijapur rule was stopped. Okay, the supply of horses to Bijapur rulers was stopped because he had a commercial treaty with the Portuguese. He bought with Bijapur ruler, and after some time he allied with the Bijapur ruler against Golconda and Ahmednagar. Okay, see, he stopped horses to Bijapur ruler, then he fought with the Bijapur ruler, then he became friend with the Bijapur ruler. Okay, and against the Golconda and Ahmednagar. This divide and rule policy provoked much enmity against Vijayanagar. See, once you call him enemy, once you fight with him, then you became friend, okay, and you became enemy to somebody else. This all kind of stuff obviously will create some sort of enmity, okay. Forgetting their mutual quarrels, the Deccan states joined hands to wage the last battle against their common enemy. The battle was fought at Talikota or Rakshasa Tangadi in January 1565, in which Ramaraya, in spite of his old age, personally commanded the forces along with his cousins and brothers. Okay, Ramaraya, at that very old age, also he was the commander. Okay, in the final stages, the battle was lost. Ramaraya was imprisoned and executed immediately. Okay, the victorious Bahamani armies entered the Vijayanagar city for the first time in their history and ransacked it for several months, laying it waste. Okay, so what do you say here? The Bahamani were not able to enter till they were able to kill the Ramaraya. So the long history, okay, till that time also Bahmanis were not allowed inside. They were not able to enter inside even after so much. And after this Ramaraya died, automatically they ransacked it, they plundered it for several months and just left it. Okay. This battle is generally considered the signal for the end of Vijayanagara. Okay. The king Sadasiva and some of his retinue escaped to Penukonda. Penukonda is in the southern Andhra. Okay. Tirumala, brother of Ramaraya, declared himself king in 1570, starting the Aravidu, that is the fourth dynasty. Okay, so Aravidu dynasty was started by the Tirumala, the brother of Ramaraya. After his son, After this, his sons and grandsons ruled the truncated kingdom for two generations, probably up to 1630. Okay, there were some more kings who ruled as fugitives until 1670 without a permanent capital. Real power was wielded by many Nayak chiefs, okay, in various parts of the country. Some of them paid loyalty to the king while others opposed him. Okay, fugitives in the sense they used to just roam, like they were not coming into the hands of anybody. Okay, so they did not have any permanent capital. They were always roaming and all. They were, you know, more or less avoiding any sort of situation. Okay, there were fights between loyalists and others. In 1601, there was a bit of fighting near Uttaramerur between the loyalist Yachamma Nayak of Perumbedu and the Nayak of Vellore. Okay, now the Nayaks also had fightings. In this scholar, quarrel, Vellore Nayak was supported by Tanjavur, Madurai and Senji Nayak, who had become independent rulers. Okay. Now we will see the administrative part of the Vijayanagara kingdom. Okay. The king was the ultimate authority in the kingdom. He was also the supreme commander of the army. He was assisted by several high-ranking officers. The chief minister was known as Mahapradhani. Okay. He led a number of lower-ranking officers like Dalave, the commander, Vasal, the guard of the palace, Rayasam, the secretary or the accountant, Adaipam, the personal attendant, and Karyakarta, the executive agent. As Harihara I and his immediate successors consolidated the territorial acquisitions, they tried to organize the territory by creating administrative divisions called the Rajyas or provinces, each under governor called as Pradhan. Okay, so the territory was divided into many Rajyas, and each Rajya was controlled by a Pradhani known as the governor. Okay, some of the prominent Rajyas were the Hoysala Rajya, Araga Rajya, Barakur, which is now the Mangaluru, and Mulave. As and when new conquests were made, they were put under new Rajya. Okay, by 1400, there were 5 Rajyas in Tamil area: Chandragiri, Padaividu, Valum, Valudalampattu, Tiruchirappalli, and Tiruvarur. Okay. The Pradhani was either a royal member or a military officer not related to the royal family. See here. Okay. The Pradhani. The Pradhani means the governor. The Pradhani had his own revenue accountants and military to assist his administration. Within each Rajya, there were smaller administrative divisions like Nadu, Seema, Sthala, Kampana, etc. Lowest was, of course, the village. Okay. The Rajas lost their administrative and revenue status under the Tuluva dynasty due to the development of Nayak system under Krishnadevaraya. What was Nayaka system? The Nayaka system, which we are talking since almost like couple of slides. Okay, the term Nayak is used from 13th century onwards in Telugu and Kannada areas in the sense of military leader or simply a soldier. Okay, assigning the revenue of a particular locality to the Nayak for their military service is found in the Kakatiya kingdom during the 13th century. This is similar to the Ikta system practiced by Delhi Sultanate at the time. See, some military leader or a soldier is there. Okay, a part of the area will be handed over to him, and he will be taking care of the revenue. Okay, of that locality. That was called the Nayak system. Okay, but in Vijayanagara kingdom, the regular assignment of revenue yielding territory in return for military service is clearly found from about 1500 or a little earlier. Inscriptions refer to this as revenue assignment or as Nayak Katanam. Okay, in Tamil, the Nayak Katanam in Kannada and Nayak Karumu in Telugu. The practice became established during the reign of Krishnadevaraya and Achyuta Devaraya. This is supported by the evidence of inscriptions and by the accounts of Nunes and Pais. Nunes says the Vijayanagara kingdom at that time was divided between more than 200 captains. His translation for Nayak. Okay, Nayaks are the captains, and they were compelled in turn to keep certain number of military forces. Okay, horses and foot soldiers to serve the king in times of need. They were also required to pay certain amount of revenue to the king in particular times of a year, like during the 9-day Mahanavami festival. Okay. Nunes statement is also supported by the Telugu work Raya Rayavaka Chakamu, which refers to practice during the time of Krishna Devaraya. Okay. Rayava Chakamu. Later day Vamsavali's family history of the Palyagars, who were mostly successors of the old Nayak families, supported the fact that Nayaka system was perfected during the time of Krishnadeva Raya. Most of these Nayaks were Kannadiga and Telugu warriors beside some local chiefs. Okay, they belong to different castes, Brahmana as well as non-Brahmana. The non-Brahmana Nayak again had different social backgrounds, traditional warrior groups, pastoral, forest clans like Yadava, Billamma, okay, peasant families like Reddy, merchant, Balija, and so on. Some of the prominent Nayak like Tellappa under Krishna Devaraya were Brahmanas. This system worked smoothly as long as there were strong kings like Krishna Devaraya. These chiefs controlled production within their Nayaktanam territories by creating commercial centers known as pettai and markets by encouraging settlements of cultivators and artisans with tax concession by creating maintaining irrigation facilities, etc. Many of them started as high officials, commander, governor, or accountant, and served as king's agents. Okay, but after Talikota battle, the Nayaka chief became more or less independent of the Vijayanagara king. Okay, some of them, like those of Madurai, Tanjavur, Ikkeri, etc., established powerful states controlling many smaller chiefs under them. Okay, the 17th century was the century of these bigger Nayak kingdoms. We'll see about the society and the economy. Continuous warfare and the resultant widespread sufferings were common features of all early and medieval societies. Bahmani and Vijayanagar period is no exception to this. Perhaps the scale looks larger due to the availability of many eyewitness accounts. Okay? The other consequences which were enduring over the centuries were the displacement and migration of people. During the 3 centuries of this chapter, we find such migrations everywhere. The conflict in the Bahmani courts were much due to the migration of Turks, Afghanis, and Persians into Deccan. Okay, as far as Vijayanagara area is concerned, there took place migrations of Kannada and Telugu warriors and their followers in Tamil areas and elsewhere. Many of the Nayaka chiefs belong to these language groups. Okay, peasants, artisans, and other toiling groups were also part of this migration. The other consequence with the widening gap between ruling class and the ruled. Okay, so the other consequence was the gap was getting widened up between the ruling class and the other people. Okay, all the foreign visitors refer to the enormous riches and affluence enjoyed by the rulers, the officials, and the upper echelons in the capital city like Vijayanagara, Bijapur, and in contrast to widespread poverty among the masses. Okay, they also refer to prevalence of slavery. Okay? What they are saying is richer were very rich. Okay, the richer were very rich and the poor were very poor. Okay, and also there was slavery. The state had to derive this revenue only from taxing the people. It is found that during the Sangama dynasty, when Vijayanagara rule was extended to new areas, their officers were harsh in tax collection, which provoked the toiling people in rise in revolt. One such revolt took place in 1413 central parts of Tamil Nadu. This was the revolt in which all the basic producers joined forgetting their caste differences. Okay, forgetting their caste differences. So here, more or less, like they these kind of tax practices are always in the history. Because of these tax practices itself, many of the revolts happened. The peasant revolt. In the coming modern history, also you will see most of the revolts were because of the oppressions caused by the tax collection itself. Okay, the revolt took place due to unjust and arbitrary tax demands of the government, including the Pradhani, the governor, his military bodies, and the landlords. It is said that Vijayanagara prince intervened and pacified the revolting people by allowing reduction. Okay. During the 16th century, under the Nayaka system, the local Nayakas tried to encourage craft production like weaving by giving tax connection now and then. Okay. The Vijayanagara period witnessed a striking development in the field of non-agrarian crafts. Until the 13th century, the economy was mainly agrarian. From the 14th onwards, the economy became more commercial. Okay, till 13th century, it was agrarian, agriculture based. From 14th century onwards, it was more or less commercial based. With the beginning of the era of money, economy circulation, and use of coined money increased manifold. Okay, artisans like weavers, smith, and masons became more prominent in the society. These non-agrarian groups were generally called the Pattadayir, okay, the workshop people, and the Kasaya Vargam, that is group that pays tax in cash. Kasu was the word for what do we call the coins. Okay, so similarly, it has been derived Kasaya. Okay, large number of commercial and weaving centers came up in northern Tamil Nadu, Rayalaseema, and the coastal Andhra. Okay, naturally, the textiles formed an important commodity exported from South Indian ports. Textiles became main commercial attractions for the Portuguese and other European traders who started coming from early 16th century. Okay, so this is the timeline. Foundation of Vijayanagara kingdom was in 1336. Okay, the Sangama. Okay, next the Bahamani kingdom was in 1347. Okay, so Vijayanagara kingdom was found uh, first. Okay, next came the Tuluva dynasty with in 1503. The coronation of Krishnadevaraya was in 1509, and the rise of Deccan Sultanate, split of Bahmani kingdom. Okay, the Bahmani kingdom was split. It was in 1518, and death of Krishnadevaraya was in 1529, and Battle of Talikota was in 1565, in which the uh, there was he lost the battle, and Ramaraya he lost the battle, and the Vijayanagara fell down. Okay, so that was about the Vijayanagara and Bahmani kingdom, guys, and I hope you find this class useful. If you have any sort of feedback or any doubts or anything, please describe it in the comments. And I request you to please like this video if it that's the least you can do for us. And please subscribe to the channel if you're new, and please share it with your friends and share it in your groups, in your UPSC study groups and all. And if you have any sort of doubts regarding the courses or any playlist related issues, or maybe if you want to join the test series, please reach us on the number provided here on WhatsApp, or you can even mail us. That's all for today, guys. I hope you do well. Okay, thank you, and have a great day.